So this video is designed to give you 3 views, one from a student desk of what it looks like on the Promethean board, the shared screen from the desktop, as well as the view looking at the desktop as the teacher. So again, this is going to give you 3 distinct views that you can then compare. So you can see what students at home would see here on the left in the shared screen. On your desktop, you actually could adjust this bar. You cannot do that on a Chromebook. And then on the right here, you can see the view from the student desk and then the view looking at the desktop. The first thing I want to show you are the different features available in Zoom from your desktop.
So if you are hosting, meaning you are the main host, not the co-host, and you've launched the Zoom from your desktop, you will have more shared options than you would on a Chromebook. You now have access to the whiteboard with all of the annotation features, drawing, text, spotlight, things like that. You can even save those diagrams for later. I apologize for the Hall of Mirrors. Okay. You can choose to share your whole screen, which on your desktop will not show the Zoom window, meaning the Zoom controls. It will show whatever you're working on in the screen. You can share a specific Chrome tab. You can share something from your Programs folder. And this is where things get really cool. In the Advanced tab, you can share a section of your screen. So you can choose to share part of your screen, and it'll zoom in for those who are virtual. And let's focus on, say, my office hours. You can zoom in and select just that. You can see on the left-hand side what it would look like for those at home. Now on the Promethean board, they are not seeing that same view because the Promethean board defaults to display the exact same thing that you see on your desktop screen up on the projector, up on the smartboard.
Other options to share include just the computer audio, video, or content from second camera.
What I'm going to do is stop my share screen and show how changing to an extended desktop can change what is visible to students. So if I select on my keyboard, and I'm going to adjust my document camera so you can see my keyboard. So if you select the Windows key and the P as in Papa key, that is going to open the menu on your desktop. So Windows P. You can then select Extend, and all of a sudden, all of those tabs and applications open on your desktop are now visible only on the Promethean board screen, and this is where things get interesting. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my Zoom window and drag it back to my main desktop screen off the Promethean board. And you might have to remind yourself which way to drag so that it goes from the Promethean board back to your main screen. So now when I go to share, I can choose to share screen 1, which is the Promethean board, or screen 2, which is in front of me with my students at home. So I'm going to go ahead and put a whiteboard on my Promethean board screen. And then I would need to bring my Zoom controls back and drag them back to the desktop in front of me off the Promethean board. And you can see on the left there, that's what students at home would see, and the students on the Promethean board see something similar now. Now that the Zoom controls are on my desktop, the chat will pop up on my desktop, but it will not show on the Promethean board. So if you want to have a private chat or the chat not visible, this is definitely the way to go. If you take a look at the bottom right, you can see that the webcam videos would show up on that portion of the extended desktop and not on what's shared on the Promethean board. And so this would enable you to share your screen and see up to 20 to 25 of your students at a time, which is much higher than the 6 we can see in Chrome. This also can be a great idea if you're trying to use Nearpod in your live classes. So when you launch a Nearpod, remember we see a teacher side. So I'm going to go ahead and launch a Nearpod real quick. And it's in that teacher view mode right now. So I'm actually going to join it myself as a student in a separate tab. So if you have not been doing this on 2 devices, I really do recommend at least 2 tabs or 2 devices for launching Nearpod. So now that I've launched and joined the student one on my Promethean board in Extended Desktop, and I've dragged Teacher View over to my desktop screen, now when I share it to my students who are at home, I need to make sure that I'm sharing the student version that's on my Promethean board. And so you can see it's shared right now. So right now the student version is showing on the Promethean board and is shared with the student at home, and I can see the teacher version at the desktop portion of my extended desktop. And we want to just double check and make sure that's the case, because if we accidentally leave the teacher one on the Promethean board, then students who are live in class could see each other's live responses. Now, if it's a teacher play video, then I would recommend the teacher play just for the audio quality. So you'd have to ask students to pop back into Zoom. You'd need to switch the share from the Promethean board screen to your desktop screen. And then after you've played the video, switch back to the other screen, in this case screen 1, to go back to sharing the student version in Zoom. So again, it's a good idea for Nearpod, whether you're on extended desktop or not, to launch in 2 screens. If you're in extended desktop, launch from your desktop, join as a student in a separate tab, and then drag that tab to the Promethean board to share that student version with the live class, the physically present students, as well as your virtual students. Now, if you don't want to deal with extended desktop, then the other option would be to launch your Nearpod from your Chromebook so that the teacher version is then on your own personal device. And then you would join as a student in a Chrome tab on your desktop. And you wouldn't need extended desktop to be enabled. It can just be in the normal duplicate. It would mirror whatever's on your main screen up on the Promethean board. Since you're co-hosting with yourself on your Promethean board, you should be able to share your screen no matter what device you're on. So Zoom will recognize that it's your account. So if you don't want to deal with extended desktop, that is definitely an option. It is also possible to share multiple screens at once in a split screen mode. And to do that, I'm first going to return from extended desktop mode back to duplicate mode by hitting the Windows P button again and selecting duplicate. Now, you might notice if you're in extended desktop that you do need to go onto the extended part on the Promethean board to find that option to then return. That menu will not pop up on your desktop screen. So once you've selected that, you'll then return back to normal. Now we can work on setting up a split screen. So the first thing we're going to do is resize 2 things. It could be 2 tabs, it could be a flip chart and a Google Doc, it could be slides in a Google Doc. Any 2 things, you're going to split the screen. And then when you go to share, you can select an application. So for example, I just clicked share on Active Inspire. So for the students at home, they would only see the Active Inspire tab, whereas the students in the classroom would be able to see both displayed on the Promethean board. As you can see there, if I share my entire desktop, that's when both tabs, exactly what's being shown on the Promethean board is what's being shown to the students at home who are 100% virtual. Again, this option to share your whole screen is called Share Screen on your desktop, but it'll say Share Desktop on the Chrome app. Now, if you're looking at all your share options, you may notice that there's a share screen versus a share tab or window option. And the difference between those two is that if you're sharing a tab, what that will do is it will share your current window that you've selected and then any adjacent tabs open in that window. So you could flip back and forth between websites without having to reshare your screen. If you have something like a MyMCPS Classroom assignment where it's going to be opening in a new browser window or a link in a Nearpod that might open in a new browser window, you're going to want to choose that share whole screen option so that you don't end up with what you see here, where I'm looking at one thing on my screen on my desktop, but the virtual shared is that Google slide as opposed to the Nearpod.
So hopefully this gives you an idea of how some things will look when we're back to school. I have been doing most of this with my mask on, using that webcam attached to a laptop across the room to record this. So that is the plan there.